Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to my Anchorage Ice Tigers, my NBA here in NBA 2K26. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we simulated the first season, and our team obviously had a rough time. However, we didn't have the worst season on paper just because the game signed us some players to make us more cap compliant. So obviously we didn't finish with necessarily the best odds to win the first overall pick, so we ended up falling back. I think it was to 10th overall, so I'm excited still for the upcoming draft, hoping that we could draft some good prospects to build this team around, of course. And then obviously, since we have the rest of the offseason as well, we will be likely signing some filler free agent players that aren't very good and giving them a good chunk of money, so hopefully that way we could actually stay cap compliant and stuff like that. So anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, and then we'll get into our very first NBA draft, and hopefully we could pick up some good players, like I said, to start building this team up. So the first two comments are from Nick Buckabarons OC. The first one says, early on, look for someone who could score and at least has all NBA as a max ceiling, because this game has a potential floor and ceiling and a boom and bust percent chance, which is unscoutable. The boom bust chance what does it say? God damn, I can barely read this, what he's saying right here. The mechanic, or something about the mechanics, but essentially it means that they have a high ceiling. The game will randomly flip a coin and decide if this guy's will be a good performance. Could skew results slightly, but really it's almost entirely random to find if someone has a high ceiling and the highest floor you can. And I already know what you mean kind of with like the prospects. I can't go back to the prospects, I don't think, in this draft, or maybe I can. Let's see this for a second. Oh yeah, I guess I can here. If we go back to some of these prospects, for instance, and we look at their prospect card, you can see basically there is a comparison thing. So this guy, for instance, the best player he could be is potentially Matisse Thybulle, which is kind of like a bench starting option. And then the worst he could be is a bench player. But there's also the chance that he could become a bust of a starter or just a normal starter and that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see if we end up drafting a player that ends up panning out well, or if a player ends up not panning out that well that we pick up. Nick also says Derek Wade looks solid. I like him a lot. So he's saying potentially with our first round pick to look into Derek Wade, which I don't remember what position this guy played. I guess we could find out here. I think it might have been center, but I do not remember. Let's see. Oh no, there he is. He's a power forward, right? 75 overall, it's looking like he's looking like a pretty solid player. As you can see, his player comparisons, Spencer Haywood, which is all NBA, and a floor of Aaron Gordon, which honestly, Aaron Gordon is a fantastic player too. So if this guy actually develops into being like one of these type of players, that would actually be a pretty solid pickup. So yeah, if Derek Wade's at our spot, we might take him. He's also 7 feet, which is nice. So he's a nice big man. He's only 20 years old. It's not like when he's old, one of these older rookies that are like 22 and all that. So yeah, we might look into him as our pick, and hopefully he ends up developing into becoming somebody decent if we do in fact get him. The next comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says it signed you those players because you had to be cap compliant. And yeah, I assume that was the case just because obviously we took a lot of players in the expansion draft that were on two-way contracts and they weren't really kind of making a lot of money. So we probably should have found somebody that could have been a cap whale for us, like a low overall but a high cap hit. But I think that's obviously what we're going to be doing this offseason, so that way we actually are cap compliant and we have our bad team, but we also have some good rookies in the lineup. The next comment is from Johnny Harrison III, who says 7-minute mark. I think that happened because you basically drafted only two-way players. The rest got sent to the G League or something. Might be wrong though. So he's thinking a lot of those guys that we took in the expansion draft might have been sent to the G League, and that's the main reason why. That honestly could be the case as well. Obviously, like I was saying, no, about the prior comment, we'll likely be trying to avoid having that same issue again for year number 2, because obviously I don't want this team to be somehow a playoff team when we're still trying to rebuild basically into a team full of drafted prospects. And the last and final comment is from Ice Attack, who says the jerseys are fire. I didn't know the white jerseys are considered home jerseys in basketball. And yeah, it's kind of like the way the old NHL used to be. So the white are home, and then you have kind of like a darker jersey for away. And then there's also like a jersey that's technically like the alternate jersey. And there's also some like icon jerseys, some city jerseys, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of different jerseys in the NBA, and they kind of utilize them whenever. Like, for instance, I think Indiana had like a yellow alternate, but they used it more as their home jersey rather than, I think it was a navy jersey or a white jersey. I'm not too sure exactly, but definitely a lot of different jerseys in the NBA compared to the NHL, I think. All right, so with that said, I think we're ready to hop on into our first draft. I hope that we could draft guys that could actually play right away, because obviously if we have to draft like a European dude, there's some of them that obviously will take a couple years before they actually come over to your team. That's another thing we got to be worried about, but obviously that doesn't matter too much because not that we're trying to be a really good team right away anyways. So anyways, let's hop into this draft and see if we can pick up ourselves a good player. I guess I will move my face. Let's go over. Actually, that's a bad spot because then you guys can't see the comparisons and stuff. So I guess we'll keep ourselves up here for the draft. So with that said, let's see who ends up going before our pick. Like I said, we don't draft till 10th overall. So it'll be interesting to see what we get. So first overall pick, Washington Wizards are now on the clock. Wonder who they are going to select with this first selection. Let's enable automatic draft advancement. Yeah, there you go. So Bernard Russell does go first overall. Not really a surprise. That guy looked like he was going to be fantastic. Second overall, Rodney Bowen heads to the Pacers. So that's another big man. All right. Clay Dunleavy goes third overall to the Utah Jazz from Wisconsin. I wish I could make this a bit slower, but whatever. Sean Oliver, a small forward, heads to the Charlotte Hornets. Okay. Next up, Houston is making a trade at this draft. Wow, that's a pretty big blockbuster trade. So the trade is Pascal Siakam and Cam Jones. So basically Pascal Siakam to the Houston Rockets in exchange for the 5th overall pick and also a 2027 swap best swap, pick swap kind of thing. So, yeah, the Pacers get some really good high-up picks again, and then Pascal Siakam on his way to the Rockets. So, that's kind of interesting that the Pacers are kind of going into a rebuild state, but, oh well. I mean, they're going to be able to get probably a pretty good player at 5th overall, my guess, but they give up Pascal Siakam, who's obviously really good, and Deion Snow is the guy that heads to the Pacers at 5th overall. Fred Bennett heads to the Magic. Let me actually pause the draft for a second here. Alright, I had to clear my throat because it's been annoying. Now the Phoenix Suns are on the clock. They will take Malevi Dunleavy Sr., which is still a funny-ass name. OKC at number 9 will select the point guard CJ Phillips. Or actually, that's a number 8. Number 9, the Pelicans will select shooting guard Helmut Schumacher, which means now I think we are on the clock officially, which is exciting. So we should be able to hopefully get the player we were looking into, which is Derek Wade. Obviously, we could go for Westbrook, too, who looks interesting. Let's take a little bit more of a look on him. All-NBA, also starter. Not really known for his main defense, but gets the job done. It can score when posted up, buries the tray with deadly accuracy on a consistent basis. This guy's a good three-point shooter, but he's also a big man, kind of. Not really a huge big man, I guess. 6'9's not the craziest. Lacks consistency with floor awareness in passing situations. That's not a huge issue. I kind of like the looks of this guy. Position rank 3rd, draft rank 11th. But then if we go to Wade, his position rank is 3rd, draft rank is 10. Who would I prefer? Wade is a power forward / small forward. He's a bit taller. He's 7 feet. Westbrook's only 6'9". 252 pounds, 20 years old. How old was Westbrook? 19. Oh boy, I feel like Westbrook could end up becoming really good too, and same with Barney Wall even for that matter. Like all 3 of these guys could be decent players. The thing is for Barney Wall is his draft rank is 17th and he's 6th in his position. So I'd probably lean towards one of these 2 guys based on that. Wade has a really good wingspan, 7'6". While Westbrook's is only 7 feet. Let's take a look at their attributes maybe a little bit in depth if I can. Westbrook was averaging 22.1 points per game. Let me actually just move my face so you guys can see all this info. So 22.1 points per game, so he's a decent scorer. Wade was averaging 26.2. Obviously, it's different. It's kind of just generated stats anyways. Grades, obviously, we can't see all this stuff, so we won't know yet until we actually go through the draft. We can't see attributes, social media stuff, badges. Oh, yeah, this might be a thing to look at. Looks like he's got like at least bronze Deadeye to start, limited range, and slippery off the ball, which is pretty good. Like Deadeye and limited range are obviously really good shooting ones. Slippery off the ball means that he's able to get open quite easily, and then he'll shoot those things, of course. So that's pretty good for Westbrook. Meanwhile, Wade only has rise up, so it's good for him to dunk. So he could be a good dunker too, which is interesting. Rankings 14-4-7. 13-3, or 10-3, and 13. This is a tough one. I'm almost leaning towards Westbrook as a pure shooter kind of guy, to be honest. He also looks like he might be the higher overall. Obviously, to get a big guy like Derek Wade would be absolutely nice, but it looks like Westbrook might have more badges and stuff, which kind of makes him more intriguing. So I think I'm going to lean towards Westbrook because obviously he also potentially has all NBA and starter just like Wade. So I don't think I can really go for a bad decision here. Wade also is capable defender, so he's actually good defensively, can block shots, has a reliable scoring option when posted up. So he's not really a three-point shooter. He's probably more inside the paint, my guess. Has questionable basketball IQ and court awareness. I think we're going to go for Westbrook. I think we're going to go for Dana Westbrook. So he's likely going to be our first ever pick. Obviously, if Wade ends up becoming a really good player, I'm going to feel like we made the bad decision. But I think Westbrook kind of screams a little bit more interesting to me personally. So I just like his three-point shooting. And obviously the NBA nowadays is more of a three-point shooting league rather than a big man league. I mean, there is some good big men, of course. But obviously the three-point shot is pretty important, I would say. So let's bring in Dana Westbrook with our first ever selection in Ice Tigers history, and let's just go like that. Obviously, for some reason, there's a glitch now. It's not loading up my logo anymore for the Ice Tigers, which I don't really know why, so that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So we won't see our logo probably at all in this unless I could find a way to get it to load back up, but do you guys know what happens like when your logo disappears? Like, can you bring it back in somehow? Like, if you go to, like, move countries or cities, I mean, for that matter, will it actually come across with your logo again? Or do you have to, like, reload up franchise mode or something? I honestly don't even know. But yeah, let's simulate to our next pick here, I guess. So we'll simulate to our next selection here and see what we could take in the next round. Obviously, the second round's more of a crapshoot, but let's see if we could find anybody good. See, now it's just showing the NBA logo, not our own. Alright, so we just took a good shooter. The next players that we could look at here, we have only a couple that are 100% scouted out. Obviously, the second round's a little bit more of a crapshoot when you don't really know what to expect. There's only 2 rounds in these drafts as well. So, Freddie McKinney is got a starter potential for his ceiling and a bench at worst. It's kind of weird that Jaren Jackson's listed in that spot. It must be Jaren Jackson Sr., not Jr., but looks like he could be an okay option, McKinney, based on that. And they haven't noticed anything about his medical, so it's not like he's an injury-prone player for sure. Looks like he should be a pretty solid defensive player based on his defensive rating, but not good offensively, which is not a bad option to have a good defensive player, but he's only like 6'5" as well, so he's probably one of the smaller end players in this draft, which isn't the best for a shooting guard. Like small forward might work okay for him, but not too sure on McKinney for sure on this point. The next player on our list here is Andor Marai. I don't know if he's a European or not. Doesn't say anything. His ceiling is also starter and bench, pretty similar, but Jamal Crawford and Jaren Jackson again. Apparently one of his strengths is that he could develop into an all-star someday, but with good potential. The only thing for him, though, that's not going good, in my opinion, is the fact that he's 23 years old already. So I'm not really too sold on him in that sense. So I don't really know if he would be a good selection. There's also Jay Aldridge, who also has starter and bench as his options. Good leaper, so he could jump pretty well. Good on-ball defender. Looks like a lot of these guys are more defensively minded, which is kind of fine. He might not be a bad option. He's 6'8". He's already 22 years old as well, but still might be okay. There's also Rock Jovanovic, who's a pretty cool name. Starter and bench as well, potentially. Yeah, a lot of these guys have better defensive stats than offensive, which is interesting, but hopefully we make the right call with whoever we decide to select here. Dylan Davis has also starter and bench. Does anybody have something that might be better? This guy's just a full-on bench player, apparently, so we're definitely not going to go for Johnny C. Samuels. Ramsey has starter and bench as well, so out of the guys I have 100% scouted, that's what we have. So I don't know if there's a great decision to make here regardless almost. So if we're looking though at badges and stuff like that a little bit more, because badges could obviously help us determine if they're a good player. McKinney probably has off the ball pest, which once again that's good for his defensive stats a bit. Andor Marai does not have a single badge. Aldridge might have 2 badges, off ball or on ball menace, so he's a good perimeter defender, and also pogo stick. So he can recover after his jumpers faster, which is kind of nice for a shooter, I guess. Jovanovic has none. Rogers we didn't even look into. Dylan Davis has none. And then Ramsey might have slippery off the ball, but we did not scout him, I don't think, really at all. This is a tough decision for the second round selection. I'm almost leaning towards one of the guys that have badges for sure. Like, I think Aldridge could be decent, just as a good perimeter defender. Also looks like he does have maybe some offensive capability, but obviously he's not a huge offensive player. Like, he's got C- offense, but B defense is, like, really nice. It was averaging 1.9 steals per game, averaging a couple blocks. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he could definitely help us defensively. So I think we're going to go with Jay Aldridge as our next selection. Honestly, have no idea if this is the right call or not. There's obviously some younger options out there, some guys that might have the same overall too, but their defensive stats aren't as good. So we're going to select Jay Aldridge with this next selection and hope that he ends up being a pretty good defensive player for our team. So there is Jay Aldridge. Welcome aboard, and hopefully he actually is a decent player. But once again, like I said, the second round picks are pretty much crapshoots anyways. So that is going to be our draft. Not an eventful draft potentially, but now we got to find out the overalls of these players in this draft class and see if we made the right selections. So here's the results. I do see already our pick, but we're going to go through the rest of this first round as well. So the Wizards obviously got a fantastic player in Bernard Russell first overall, 81 at 19. That guy's going to be absolutely awesome. The Pacers at number 2 took a 78 overall center. That's 20 years old in Rodney Bowen. Pretty solid guy, of course. Dunleavy was a 77 at 21. Then you have a couple, I'd say, bad selections based on overall at least, but maybe their potential is really good. Sean Oliver being a 74 and also Deion Snow being a 74. Then you have Bennett as a 76, Dunleavy Sr. as a 78 at 23. Then you have CJ Phillips 74 at 19, Schumacher 74 at 22, and we got a 75 at 19. That's pretty good, but obviously we don't know what his potential is. It could be a C potential, so maybe he would just never develop, but we'll obviously come through that in a little bit here. Wade was a 76 at 20, which is interesting. We'll see how his potential is compared to Westbrook's in a little bit too. Sessions 72, then there was a 75 here, and Wall was another guy we kind of looked into a little bit. Grantham 73 at 22, then you had Wingate. A lot of obviously guys that are all very similar overalls, but some of them will have very different potentials. There's probably one of the worst picks we've seen so far in terms of overall rating at 69 at 22 for Bruce Patterson. Maybe he has good potential though, so maybe he could become one of the better players in this class. Lothar Klein 69 at 21, also a little bit low. But you can see, yeah, a lot of these guys are pretty similar in terms of their rating. The question I have is obviously how good was our second round pick? Because obviously the second round is definitely more of a crapshoot. We end up getting, I guess, where are we in the second round? Where is the Gold Ice Tigers? Oh, 11th, there we go. 71 at 22. That might not be that bad. That might not be that bad considering there's a lot of 60s going in this second round. It's going to be interesting to look at their potentials and see if we made the right call. Hopefully we did make the right call because that would be a good way to start off this franchise mode. So let's take a look more in depth at our guys. Obviously, we'll take a look maybe at some of these other dudes in this draft class as well. Like, let's look at Bernard Russell, for instance, who just went first overall. Obviously, it would have been nice to get somebody like him. He has an increased risk of injuries in his shoulders and also his back. So that's something that's definitely to watch out for if you're the Washington Wizards. I was going to say Nationals for some weird reason, but in terms of his potential, I wanted to see this. What's his potential? His potential is a B+. I mean, that's not the greatest, but obviously he's got a really good starting overall. But obviously you would prefer him probably for an A+ potential player. But if he's 81 and 19, he could obviously develop into being a way better potential than it says, I would assume. So there is Russell, who went first. Rodney Bowen, who went second. Does he have A potential? Yes, he does. Okay, so Bowen has A potential. I don't see anybody so far with A+ potential. We'll also look at Dunleavy. Just look at the top 3 or top 5 probably. Clay Dunleavy, who went 3rd overall, has B+ potential, so pretty solid for him. Mr. Sean Oliver, and then we'll look at Snow as well. Oliver has A- potential, so that's still pretty good too. And then obviously Dion Snow probably should be in the same type of boat, my guess. Yeah, A- as well. So that's the top 5. Now the question is our own picks. Did we make the right call with guys like Dana Westbrook? We'll come to his gradings in a little bit here, but let's first and foremost, we do see his badges, of course, which is good. We noticed those before. But his body health, he does have increased risk of injury to his head, which is probably not ideal, but I don't feel like there's a lot of head injuries in basketball. But also his left foot does have an increased risk of injury, which is kind of interesting. So definitely something to monitor as his career goes on. Hopefully he doesn't suffer any crazy head injuries or leg injuries, or foot injuries, I should say. Aside from that, his hot zones, obviously he's a good 3-point shooter. We saw he looks like he's decent enough in the key, and he's got a cold zone apparently, but obviously that could improve as he's playing good. In terms of play for winner, not important. That's good to see because obviously we're not going to be good early on. Finance security, somewhat important. And loyalty, somewhat loyal. So he's not fully loyal, but he's decently loyal. And then in terms of, obviously, our grades here, inside scoring, not very good. It's a C rating, so that could definitely be improved. His mid-range shooting is an A-, and then his three-point shooting is an A. I like that a lot. Playmaking is a C-. Perimeter defense is a B. So he's a good three-point shooter and mid-range shooter, but also can play good perimeter defense. I like that. Post defense he's not very good at, which is kind of weird that he's good at perimeter defense because he's a power forward / center. Like, you'd think his post defense would be better as a big guy, but I guess not. Rebounding's only a C+. Athleticism's a C+. That's not great. Basketball IQ is a C, and his potential's a B+. Okay, so he doesn't have an A+ potential, but I think that's still an okay first pick. Obviously, it depends on, I guess, how Wade is by comparison. But Westbrook is solid. His overall right now, obviously, is a C+, but at some point, he could probably be an 80+ overall player if he develops well. And then there's his skill graphs in case you want to see that. And there's all his individual attributes. We won't really look through that, though. All right, so that was our first pick. Let's actually take a look at Wade as well, just to see if we made the right call with Westbrook. Wade has good inside scoring, but obviously he's not a three-point shooter or mid-range shooter, so he's only an inside scorer for the most part. Doesn't really have good playmaking. Has very bad perimeter defense because he's a big man. Post defense is really good, or solid, I should say. Rebounding is pretty bad, to be honest, which is kind of weird because he's 7 feet. Athleticism C+. Basketball IQ is terrible, but he does have A+ potential. So Nick made the right choice. I probably made the wrong decision. But right now, I would say I kind of like Westbrook just because he could actually play defense and stuff like that. Perimeterly, he could shoot three-pointers. Like, they're both going to be useful players, but obviously right now, Derek Wade's not the greatest player. But obviously, in terms of potential, he might have the best potential out of this draft class. So probably made the wrong selection in his first draft, but obviously it's the first draft. We're going to make mistakes. Now, our second round pick, obviously, like I said, is a little bit more of a crapshoot. So how good is Jay Aldridge? As an inside scorer, he's got C- for that, so not the greatest. Mid-range shooting's not good. Three-point shooting's not good. So he's definitely not an offensive player. Doesn't do much at playmaking either, but he does have a perimeter defense. So he's going to be one of those guys that maybe come off the bench to just help secure leads, my guess. Not really do much offensively. Post defense isn't very good, though, but perimeter is. Rebounding is not the greatest. Athleticism is good. Basketball IQ is not good. He does have B potential, though, so I'd say for a second-round pick, that's good. But obviously, he's just more of a defensive player. So he's not going to really be picking up points for us, but could still help us out on the defensive side of things. So that is our draft. I wish I could kind of skim through this and see like all the potentials just on this screen rather than going through each individual player. But I'd say we had an okay first draft. Well, obviously could have probably went for Wade instead and got a really good potential guy, but at the moment, like I said, I'm not really too sold on a lot of those stats other than his defensive play in tight, it seems like. So, all right, so now that that is dealt with, let's get to the rookie signings and sign our 2 prospects. So Westbrook will be getting a 2-year deal at $14.82 million, and Aldridge will be getting just a 1-year deal at $1.78. Also, it really bugs me that the logo doesn't appear for some reason anymore. Like, why is it not loading up in the normal spot that it was supposed to be in? Like, do I have to reload it? If you guys could let me know on that, that would be nice. But let's advance. We got our 2 prospects, of course. Team/player options. There's nobody because we're going to have to re-sign some people in the free agency portion. Let's get through that. Qualifying offers. I guess we'll send qualifying offers to everybody because we just need money spent on this team pretty much. So, actually, is anybody not that good? Or is already good? I guess we'll get rid of Brandon Williams. You know, he was really good for us last season. We'll extend these low-end players, but that's all we'll pretty much do. Moratorium, this is for RFAs, I'm pretty sure. So we don't have any RFAs, I don't think. Oh, yeah, we do have a lot. Let's see. Renounce rights. I don't really want to cap hold some of these dudes because they're too good. So let's renounce rights on Melton. Decline on those dudes. We're pretty much just going to let go of everybody at this point. So let's get through this moratorium part and renounce rights on pretty much everybody. We're going to hold on to these dudes, though, this low-end players. Just because, obviously, we want to still have somewhat of a roster. There you go. That's good. And now we're at free agency. Perfect, right? Yeah. All right, so 12 days of free agency. We only get 3 offers per day, so we got to start filling out our roster for next season. So what do we already have in terms of a roster, out of curiosity? Can I take a look at our roster? I think so, right? Oh, yeah, here we go. So if we go to front office and roster, right now we only have, I think, we have no point guards, no shooting guards. We have a small forward, of course, that we just drafted in Aldridge. We have a power forward. So we only have a small forward and a power forward. So we need at least, I'd say, 1 more small forward, 1 more power forward, 2 centers, and then 2 in terms of the guards, at least. And then we'll probably have to sign more after that, too. But we only get a couple offers a day. So let's head on back to the free agent list. And let's start signing some bad players and then giving them a good chunk of money. We don't have to make them match our system right now, just because obviously we're not trying to win games. So let's sort this by overall rating here, and looks like we're going for some really bad players. OJ Rice is only a 61, so yeah, we're going to be a really bad team off the hop, but that's okay. What position does he play? Point guard. Yeah, we need 2 point guards, so let's give him a 1-year deal. Just crank this up because we have a ton of cap room. So we're going to give this guy like way more than he probably ever deserves. But we're just going to try and fill out the rest of our roster. So we'll give him like, I wish this could go up by more faster, but oh well. Let's go with like, I don't even know what technically a high cap hit would be for this guy. But we're going to give him, let's do $8 million on the dot. And sure, take that OJ Rice. Aside from that, we do have to get some more point guards. Let's also go for Kevin Banks. Some of these guys are probably undrafted players, but we're going to try and give them each a lot of money. pending offers. Some of these guys actually have good potential or what? I should probably look at that as well. But these guys are just going to be here for 1 year only. So it doesn't matter if they're good potential. We're probably not going to hold on to them, right? But let's also give this guy $8 million. Just give a couple point guards that much money. And then, like I said, we also need some shooting guards. That's 2 of 3 contracts offered already. So let's go to shooting guards. And we will sign Gary Cousins as well. And those will be the only few offers we're able to offer this week. So hopefully they accept immediately. So that way we can get into the other offers as well. But a little bit tedious, this stuff that do this in the offseason. But this is what it takes to at least do a draft to glory. So hopefully we can make this team pretty cap compliant. But I feel like I should be offering some of these guys like even more money than $8 million. So you know what? Let's give Gary Cousins $10 million. But we're just basically doing this just to help out with the cap situation. So eventually we won't have to do this, hopefully. Okay, so that's 3 of 3 offers. It says, actually, no, it says 0 offers. What? Did all those guys immediately accept or what? Or maybe you do get more than 3 offers. I'm not too sure. But let's continue and see if we could offer some more out as well. So we need another shooting guard. Let's go for Tommy Mills. And actually, I guess we did use all of them because it says we used all our offers. So let's advance. And of course, all these guys we're cap holding still because we are going to be signing them. Now we could go back to shooting guards and we should be able to offer some more dudes a contract, I think. So we'll go for Tommy Mills. Yep, I can. Perfect. All these guys that we're offering contracts to should accept. If they don't accept, I don't know why the reason is, but like I said, we won't have to do much of this after a couple seasons once we actually have a full roster of guys that we've drafted. So it might take like 5 seasons at least, but should be not a too long-term of a thing. But obviously it does take a while to give a player an actual contract. I wish I could go through this contract a lot faster, but the game is it's not slow at this point. It just takes a little bit. So let's do Tommy Mills, $10 million. So that would be 2 point guards and 2 shooting guards. Like I said, we do need another small forward. So let's go for another small forward. So we'll go for Mario Salerno as our next pickup. Give him $10 million as well. And I think we should be pretty good after that for small forwards, which means we need another power forward. And then we needed 2 centers at least. And I think we might need still some more depth options on top of that. So we'll do that once we see some of these guys accepting probably. So Mario, you're ready for that $10 million. And then we'll have to find a guy named Luigi or something like that on top of it. So $10 million, take the money. And I think we have one more offer this week as well, so or this day, I guess. So we'll go for Dustin Rogers, I guess, since he's a 64, doesn't fit us that well. I just don't want to be a good team at all, so I want us to win barely any games. Because obviously next year's draft class, maybe it'll be a good one for us because we could potentially land in the first overall pick. This year we didn't have good luck because the game signed us a bunch of people. But hopefully we could get ourselves a top 5 selection at some point as long as we make the right call with who we pick. Because obviously that's always a wild card type of thing. So Rogers is going to get $10 million as well. Take all this money, guys. Some of you will be actually playing in the lineup. Some of you will probably be in the G League. All right, so that's all the offers I could do for this week. So let's advance, I guess. So obviously all these guys are accepting all the money, of course, because they want that money. So that is good. We do need to target some centers now, though. So we will go for Al Terrell. Actually, where is he playing? I guess he is on a team, maybe. He might be... No, he's not an RFA. We'll go through him anyways. And we'll give him $10 million as well. Obviously, we're starting to eat into our cap room a bit, but it's not by much. I might actually give some of these guys more than $10 million after we get our full roster signed up, basically. Because the full roster, I think, is like 14 players or something like that, if I remember right. Hard to remember. Like I said, this is the first 2K series I've done in like 5 years, so bear with me if I don't know certain things. Alright, so we'll do $10 million again for Al Terrell. And then we just need one more center, which that's going to be Marshall Humphreys. I don't know if some of these guys are undrafted players or not, but like I said, they're just filler players. It would be nice if they were undrafted players because maybe I could say, hey, we could use them, but I'm not too sure if they are, or they're just randomly guys that are in the free agent market. So we'll do another 10 million on Humphreys, and then I think we might need to still sign some more players, but not as much. I just want to make sure that the game doesn't sign me any crazy overall guys that are like in the 70s already, other than the guys that we have obviously drafted. So let's do 10 million for Humphreys. And we could offer one more contract, so I guess we'll just randomly bring in, let's go for another shooting guard and another small forward maybe. So we'll do a shooting guard here. Tommy Mills is one of the ones that we already offered to. So I guess we will go for Sebastian. Oh, it's not even Sebastian, it's Sebastião. I don't think I've ever seen that name before. All right. And then we'll do, like I said, a small forward or a power forward as well. And that should be hopefully good enough to make us close to cap compliant. I would assume it would, but honestly I have no idea because obviously we have over 100 million of cap space, our cap room. We don't have to go right up to the cap floor, but our cap room I think is until you actually are over the cap. So let's do $10 million as well for Silva. And then we'll do one more player as well next week because that's our third offer of the week. Those guys are accepting, of course. Let's get ourselves a small forward. Let's go with Sanders here. And that should be good. I obviously could go the opposite direction and just give a guy the max money if we wanted to, but I'm not going to because I think we're probably getting close to cap compliancy. But we'll do a $10 million as well for Sanders. And then I guess obviously our players that we drafted should be hypothetically our best overall players, which will then help us be able to easily determine who is a player we drafted and who wasn't. But let's do $10 million for Sanders as well. And then that should be probably all we need to sign, I would assume. But obviously if we need to sign another player, we will. So let's see, did Sanders accept? Humphreys accepted. Alright, so let's advance again. Sanders accepted. So we should be pretty good, I'm guessing now, right? Like if we bring up the roster thing, let me go to Quick Nav, go to roster. We have obviously 2, 5, 8, 10, and 12. I think we might need to sign a couple people, but I think some of those are cap holds. So I think we're good in terms of players. And obviously if we go to our entire roster, you can see our best players are Westbrook and Aldridge, who we just drafted. So this is exactly what we kind of want. So I don't think I need to offer any more free agent contracts. So let's head to player progression. Harkless got his qualifying offer. Same with Ray J. Dennis and Buraria. All right. Player progression. In terms of players getting growth, obviously there's some of these are guys that we just signed, so it doesn't really matter too much. Obviously the guys we just drafted aren't going to go up by anything, so this is pretty pointless for this first year. But obviously once we start getting guys developing that we've drafted, we'll take a look more in depth at this point, but that's good. All right, next up we have the Summer League, which is good because then we'll actually get to see some games from the top prospects we have on our team, because obviously the NBA has a Summer League, so that's the best point to see how good your rookies are doing that you just drafted. So let's go to Summer League. Let's go fill it automatically. That should put, hopefully, our guys into those games. Let's see. Where is our games, of course? I'll probably just show an NBA logo or no logo. It looks like we don't have any games there. Trying to see when we actually play. Oh, there's one of our first games. So let's simulate through that game and see how it went. See if our players played in that game. Looks like we lost. No, we won. We won 122 to 118. So we won a Summer League game. Obviously the guys that we drafted, let's take a look at their stats more importantly for the Summer League games. So Westbrook dropped 14 points in 20 minutes, had 8 rebounds. Love to see that. 2 assists, was 6 for 10 from field goal percentage, 2 for 3 from 3-point range. All right, looks like he had a pretty solid showing in his very first Summer League game. Aldridge dropped 13 points. Had 1 rebound, 1 assist. Did have 2 turnovers, but same with Westbrook. It's okay. But it looks like the 2 young guys stepped up decently in their first game, and it was nice to see that the Ice Tigers actually beat the Grizzlies. All right. That sounds like an actual like a fight. Imagine an Ice Tiger fighting against a Grizzly Bear. That'd be kind of insane. All right, let's see what our next Summer League game is as well. Looks like we're playing against the Clippers, I think, there. So let's simulate through that game and see how that one went. We won that one as well, 84-81. All right, looks like we're having a good Summer League. Westbrook dropped 16 points, had 5 rebounds in his second game. 1 turnover, was 6 for 12, so put up a good amount of shots. 2 for 4 from 3-point range. All right, plus 12. Wow, good stuff. And then if we go to Aldridge, he had a little bit more of a complete game. 6 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, so he was doing a bunch of everything. But yeah, good to see. Good to see these guys are having some good times here in Summer League so far. Let's see, we probably have more games before the actual playoffs. I don't remember how long Summer League even is, to be honest. When do we play next? Looks like not for a bit. Unless I'm just blind. Oh, there you go. Against the Rockets. All right, let's go through that game. See if we go 3-0. No, we lost that one, 83-80. So that one's a pretty tight loss. Westbrook dropped 13 points in that one, 4 rebounds. And then you also have Aldridge, who played 19 minutes, only dropped 5 points. Definitely Westbrook has been probably the most impressive of the two, which makes sense. He was a high pick. So, but obviously we're just hoping for good results from those guys as we go forward. So now we actually have the playoffs for the Summer League. Who are we taking on in the playoffs for the Summer League? We're taking on Detroit all the way down here. So let's see what ends up happening with that. Let's simulate through the round. See if we beat Detroit. And no, we lost to Detroit in the opening round. That sucks. How was that game? That game was a 105-97 loss. Westbrook actually had a pretty good game again. Dropped 22 points with 4 rebounds. Looks like he chucks up a lot of shots too. So yeah, I'm impressed with Westbrook's Summer League for sure. Meanwhile, Aldridge played 20 minutes, only dropped 3 points, 2 rebounds and 1 assist. Definitely not as strong for Aldridge. But once again, it's Summer League. It's not going to be hugely important at the moment. So anyways, now that we've seen all that, let's simulate through the rest of Summer League. Who's going to win Summer League? It's going to be a finals between the Rockets and Minnesota, and looks like the Rockets won Summer League as the 20th seeded team, beating a 3 seed Minnesota Timberwolves. All right. Reed Shepherd leading the way. Not really surprised. Okay. Next up, we have FIBA friendlies, which I guess is technically a new thing. So this is just... Oh, that's an actual game you could play. I don't really give a shit about that, to be honest. I'm not playing games against AI. Unless I'm playing my career. All-Star City selection. So where's the All-Star game going to be this year? Chicago. All right. All-Star game in Chicago. What do we got next? Auto-generate draft class, of course, because we always do that. Hoop Summit is next, which is just guys that are going to be in the upcoming draft class, I think. So let's simulate through that game. Can I take a look at the score? Yeah, I can. So some of these guys are going to be the next players in these upcoming drafts. So you'll see some of these names out there, likely in the draft class. I think it shows actually the overalls of the players if you click on them. I don't really want to see the overalls of these players because I feel like that's kind of cheating if that actually is the case. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But let's advance to next season and get our starting lineup set up, I guess, technically. But it should be pretty much ready to go. Apparently, Russell Westbrook's retiring this year, which is funny because obviously we just drafted a guy with the last name Westbrook. But he is also having a farewell tour just like LeBron did last year. We'll say yes on that. But let's see what we got in terms of our rotation. I guess I have to go here. And we will go with... Where's the rotation part of this? I always have to remember this type of thing. It's always confusing when you go back to a game for the first time in a while. Where do I address this? It's probably on coaching, right? Coaching game plan. Is it this? Nah, this is just... Let's see. Oh, no, it is this. Okay, perfect. This is what I wanted to see. So, I guess technically, obviously, Aldridge should be in the starting lineup because he's one of our players. He's not the best player in the world, but I still would want him to start because we drafted him. Westbrook is also in the lineup, of course, getting the most minutes out of everybody. Obviously, we don't really want to have a good team, so I think this is probably good enough the way we have the minutes distributed at the moment. So I think for the most part, we'll keep everything like that the same. And hopefully Westbrook has a good rookie season. Because if he does, maybe he could be a rookie of the year candidate. But he's going to be getting a lot more playing time than most rookies, I would assume. So that's all set up and good to go, which means the next season is ready for next episode, I think. I don't know if it signed us any good players. Let's just double check on that. Looks like it didn't. So at least we should be worse than last year, but we have actually 2 guys to focus on. And like I said, I really hope that these guys have good careers. Does it say the potential, like the name that he could potentially be? I don't think so, right? No. Was there any increased risk of injury on Aldridge? No, there's not. Okay, good. So at least he's a guy that should be relatively healthy, at least so far. And then there's the contract structure with guys like Aldridge as well. There's a team option after next season, I guess, and then afterwards we'll actually have to sign him potentially. Organizational role as a superstar, that's actually hilarious. So our organization has him as a superstar just because he's technically our best player on our team almost, other than Westbrook. And then Westbrook is pretty much the exact same type of thing. I guess I should probably add those guys to my non-trading block, which I don't remember how you even do that either. Oh, wait, here it is. Untouchables. We're going to have to add our untouchables, so let's put Westbrook on there and also Aldridge. Everybody else is going to get offers probably thrown to them, but we're not going to be trading people anyways in a series. But I just don't want offers thrown for Westbrook and Aldridge because obviously it's not something we'd be doing. So that's all set up, which means next season's good and ready to go. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Anchorage Ice Tigers, MyNBAs. So in next episode, we will simulate through year number 2. We'll see how good this team is. Obviously, it shouldn't be good. It should be way worse than last season because we don't have guys like Malcolm Brogdon on the team. So it's going to be exciting to see how those young guys on a roster do for their first season. We're also going to scout out, obviously, the upcoming draft, and hopefully we could have a high up pick in this year's draft so we could draft ourselves a really good player to start building this team around. Because Westbrook looks good on paper, but obviously it would be nice to start getting some guys that are like A+ potential, not just B+ ones. So let me know anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.